We begin now at the top of Daf Tesvav Amud Beis Meseches Shabbos. This is Shabbos Daf 15b. So the Gemara here was asking, is it really true that the Gezerah on Eretz Ha'amim was made in the times of Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan? Wasn't it made a lot later? So the Gemara says it goes like this: Ela'asa inhu gazer agusha lisrof v'avira v'lo klum. What happened was it was made in stages. Rashi says Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, they made a gezerah on the land, the earth itself, that if it would touch truma, you have to burn the truma, and the airspace of the Eretz Ha'amim, no gezerah at all. V'yasu rabbanon de peishana, and then the rabbanon who lived 80 years before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, then they came gazer avira. They made a gezerah on the airspace lislos that you don't eat the truma, but you don't burn it either. So that's the stages that it was made. And the Gemara questions that. So according to that schedule of gezerahs, it comes out that right away the first gezerah involved sreifa, burning truma. That's a little difficult. But Ilfa said, that when it came to the tumah that they decreed on a person's hands, the original gezerah was to burn the truma. So the implication is that was a chiddush. Yadayim who did tchilas gezerah l'sreifa. Only by Yadayim was the original gezerah to burn. Hamidi achrin lo, that wasn't true by other things. Anything else that was done in stages, they didn't immediately say that you have to burn truma. So rather the Gemara changes it a little. Ela'asa inu gazer agusha lislos va'avira v'lo klum. So they came along, Yossi ben Yoezer, Yossi ben Yochanan said, on earth, you don't burn, but you don't eat truma, that's lislos, and on airspace, nothing. And then comes along the Rabbanan of 80 years, and they said that on earth you have to burn, and when it comes to the airspace, lislos, so you should not burn, and you should not eat either. But the Gemara is still not satisfied with this, because the Gemara says, Vakati be'usha gazer. We find this gezerah was made in Usha, regarding Eretz Ha'amim, regarding the tumah that takes place in the land outside of Eretz Yisrael. The Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah, al vav sveikos, and there are 6 doubts, that about those doubts, sarfin es truma, that we actually burn truma if we have a doubt about it being tameh, and they are as follows. Al safik beis hapras. Let's say you have a suffix when the truma went into a beis hapras. A beis hapras, Rashi says, kolomar al sveiko shel beis hapras kegon truma shenichneses lebeis hapras dehu sadeh she'avad ba'kever. Let's say it's a field where there's a grave there, but it's lost. We don't know where it is. Hainu safik delo yadinon im ha'hila ala kever im lav. We don't know whether the truma became like an oil over this kever or not. That's one case. V'al safik offer haba me'eretz ha'amim. That's our case. You have a suffix on dirt that came from Eretz Ha'amim. V'al safik bigdei amoretz. You have the clothing of an amoretz. So again, you have a suffix whether or not they are tameh and they made the truma tameh. V'al safik kalim hanimtsoin. Let's say you have a kalim that you don't know whether they're tameh or not. V'al safik harokin. You have a spit. Maybe it belongs to a zav. The al suffix may ragle adam shekaneged may ragle behema. You have a suffix of the urine of a person, and it's next to the urine of an animal. Rashi here explains there's a couple of sveikas over here. Number one, you don't know if it belongs to an adam or if it belongs to behema, and it's next to behema, so that makes it even more likely. So you don't know, and not only that, maybe the person it was tahar. So you have a lot of sveikas involved in that case, but they still said they have to burn the truma. So in those cases, al vadai magon v'safik tumas and sarvin as truma. In all those cases, if you know that there was touching of those items, but you don't know if there was tuma, you do have to burn truma. Rabbi Yossi says, Af al safik magon b'rishus hayachid sarfin. Even if you're not sure if it touched, you have to burn if it's in rishus hayachid. Chachamim b'rishus hayachid tolin b'rishus harabim tahorin. Chachamim say, well, it depends. In rishus hayachid, we'll say tolin, you don't eat it, you don't burn it. And if it's a safik whether it touched in rishus harabim, we're going to be completely lenient and say it's totally tahor. V'yamar Ula, and Ula said, Elu vav sveikos b'usha hiskinu. That's the end of our question. Ula said that all these 6 things in this Mishnah were all in Usha. One of these 6 things is Eretz Ha'amim. So that brings us to this question over here of it wasn't Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, and it wasn't 80 years before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. This took place in Usha. Now, when was that? So Rash says, b'usha hiskinu kama shonim achar churban kedamrin b'Rosh Hashanah gave yud masos nasa shchina. So in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah it says that Usha, when they settled in Usha, that was many years after the destruction. So the timeline is totally off. So the Gemara answers like this: Ela asu inhu gazer agusha lislos va'avira v'lo klum. The stages went as follows. First, Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, they made a gezerah on the earth. that it's you don't eat the truma, you don't burn the truma, and on the airspace of Eretz Amim, there's nothing wrong at all. V'asur Rabbanan d'shmonim shana gazer idi v'idi lislos. Then the Rabbanan, 80 years before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, said that in both scenarios, whether it be the airspace, whether it be the earth, that you should be tola, you should not eat, you should not burn. V'yasu b'usha gazer agusha lisro ve'avira kedekai. And then finally, again, after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash in Usha, they made a gezerah on the earth that you should burn the truma, and they kept the gezerah the same when it came to the airspace, that you should be tola, you should not burn the truma, and you should not eat it either. Gemara now continues that the two dots of discussion begins here about klei zechuchis. So it said that another gezerah that they made was that glass is tamei klei zechuchis, my time of gazer b'rabbanan tuma. Why did the Rabbanan say that glass should be tamei? Amar Rabbi Yochanan Amar Reish Lakish Hoel utchilas briyasim min achol. The reason why we're strict is because it's created originally from sand. Shavin Rabbanan k'kli cheres. So the Rabbanan said, so it's similar to pottery, to clay vessels in that sense, and just like kli cheres can become tamei, so too klei zechuchis can become tamei. So the Gemara says, Elamayat, if that's the case, lo tehela and tara b'mikvah, you shouldn't be able to purify them in a mikvah, because that's the same like kli cheres, you can't purify in a mikvah. Alama tanan ve'elu chotzitzin b'kelim hazefes v'hamur b'chlei zechuchis. So how could you have a Mishnah talking about what materials are like a chatzitza when you put it in the mikvah? So by glass items, if you have this pitch or you have this more on the klei zechuchis, and you put it in the mikvah, that's considered a separation and it's not tar. What do you mean it's a separation? It's not tar. If it's like klei cheres, you should never be able to put it in a mikvah. So the Gemara answers, so in that case, that Mishnah is talking about a very particular situation where you actually made a hole in the klei zechuchis, and the halacha is when you make a hole in klei cheres, it becomes tar. It's no longer considered a kli anymore. And then what you did was you put in metal, you put in aver, you put in essentially liquid metal, you melted it into this thing. And so then it has a status of metal, which you're allowed to purify in a mikvah, and that was the case where the Mishnah started talking about what's a chatzitza by glass. For Rabbi Meir, that follows Rabbi Meir. Everything goes after the maimed. The maimed here is essentially the thing that's supporting this kli, which is the metal. So it has a status of metal, has a status of the maimed itself. The Tanya we learned in a brayso klei zechuchis shenikvu v'hitiv l'sochon aver. If you have a glass which gets a hole in it and you put in some liquid metal, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Meir mitame v'chachamim mitarin. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that Rabbi Meir says it's tamei, and the chachamim say it's tar. Rashi here explains. This lead, this metal that you put inside, it's being a maimed, and it follows that. That's why you can be matar in a mikvah. And the proof is from Rabbi Meir, who's Matame. Rashi explains, we don't say that this is no longer a kli like any other pottery that's broken. You see that it has the status of a kli matchis. That's why it says over here, Rabbi Meir Matame, and that's why similarly it would have tar in the mikvah. The Gemara now asks, Ela me'ata, but if that's true, Rashi says, if you're seriously saying that the glass has a status of kli cheres, and the Gemara will continue on Daf 15b Daf to discuss this gezerah on glass.